How incredible does this pavlova look? It's got that crunchy meringue exterior and that pillowy, almost marshmallowy center filled with berries and topped with delicious whipped cream and some more berries on top. So good. Sally that girl in the kitchen. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sally That Girl in the Kitchen. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to make a pavlova. For those of you not familiar with a pavlova is a meringue cake. But how does it differ from a regular meringue? Well, this meringue is crispy on the outside while it stays pillowy and almost marshmallowy on the inside. And then, as if that weren't enough, we open it up, we kind of crack that shell, fill it up with some berries, pile it up with some whipped cream, and then add a few more berries on top to finish it off. The result is delicious, beautiful, fantastic, but the best part, it's so easy. You're not going to believe how easy this dessert is to make, and it is super impressive. So I'm super excited to teach you how to make it. So let's not wait another second, and let's get started. For the pavlova part of today's recipe, or the meringue cake part, you will need 2 egg whites, a half a cup of castor sugar. So for those of you not familiar with castor sugar is finely ground granulated sugar. They sell it already ground. It's called castor sugar. But if you don't have it, you can also take your regular granulated sugar and run it in your food processor. Just pulse it a couple of times to grind it and make it a little thinner. You don't want to overgrind though, because you don't want to end up with powdered sugar. You'll also need 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, a half a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, and 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. I will also mention that if you want to make this recipe during Passover, you can swap out the cornstarch for potato starch to make a kosher for Passover pavlova. For the topping of today's recipe, you will need a half a cup of heavy cream, a half a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, 1 tablespoon of sugar. You can either use the castor sugar or just regular granulated sugar, and mixed berries for filling and topping. Of course, you can use different fruits. You can use kiwi or whatever you prefer to fill and top, but I'm going to go classic with mixed berries. You will also need a baking sheet and some parchment paper, some oven mitts, a large and medium-sized bowl, a wet measuring cup, some dry measuring cups, some measuring spoons, a spatula or 2, and a handheld blender. And of course, you'll need a plate to serve your pavlova on and a long sharp knife so that you can cut into it to fill it. So now that we have all of our ingredients and tools together, let's get started. So the first thing I like to do is take my eggs out of the refrigerator. You want to use room temperature egg whites. So just remove the yolks. We're not going to be using those. And then let the egg whites sit at room temperature, because you're going to get a much fluffier meringue if you use room temperature egg whites. So be sure not to skip this step. So just put them in a little bowl and then let them sit and come to room temperature. Now, once you've done that, then you're going to want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, because for starters, we want our oven nice and hot. So you're going to grab a clean bowl and your egg whites and the castor sugar that we're going to be using to whip up our beautiful meringue. And then we're going to start by adding our egg whites into our very clean bowl. Just make sure it's nice and clean. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your handheld blender and you're just going to start whipping air into your egg whites. So whenever I whip anything, I always start on low and then I just gradually increase my speed to make sure that nothing splatters out of my bowl. So you could definitely whip this on high, and it's just going to take a couple of minutes to get to where you need to be. you're going to notice that the air is being incorporated into your egg whites, and so they're increasing in volume. They're getting fluffier, and it almost looks like you have more of the mixture. That's what you want. You want to get plenty of air into your egg whites. Now, once you've done that, then what we're going to do is we're going to take our castor sugar and we're going to gradually add it into our egg white mixture. So we don't want to deflate it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add about 1/3 at a time. And that's just a rule of thumb. I mean, usually we go in thirds for whatever reason, and then just turn your handheld mixer on. And at this point, you're just going to want to mix at about a medium speed. So in my case, my handheld blender has a speed of up to 6. So I'm using 3. So all I'm doing is I'm gradually incorporating. See, I'm at 3, and then just mixing in that castor sugar that I just added. And then once I feel that that sugar has been incorporated, then all I'm going to do is I'm going to gradually stop my blender, and then I'm going to continue adding my sugar. So I'm going to add another portion, in other words, a second third. And then I'm going to just do the same thing I did a moment ago. I'm going to turn on my handheld blender. I'm going to raise the speed to about 3, which is medium. And then I'm just going to incorporate that second portion of sugar. And you're noticing, I'm sure, that the texture has changed. It's definitely getting thicker and glossier, and this is exactly what we're looking for. And then, of course, I turn my blender off again, and then I add my last third of castor sugar, and I'm just going to incorporate this the same way I did with the other 2. I just love making meringue. It just comes together so quickly, and it's almost miraculous how we took some room temperature egg whites, and just by adding sugar to them, they become this thick, delicious, amazingly yummy creation. Is just really, really mind-blowing. So you saw how quickly this has come together. Really, it's been a matter of minutes. I just whipped the egg whites, incorporated the sugar, 1 portion at a time, and then I have this beautiful, yummy meringue that I have just formed. Now, what am I going to do next? I'm going to add some lemon juice. So lemon juice will provide that acid that we need to create that crispy exterior on our pavlova while still maintaining the inside nice and pillowy, almost marshmallow-like. So we're using lemon juice. Some people use vinegar, some people use cream of tartar, but especially when kosher could be a consideration, lemon juice is always the way to go. It's natural, you don't have to worry about it, and it's just perfect and it works great. So now I've incorporated my lemon juice, my meringue is looking glossy and beautiful, and I'm adding some pure vanilla extract for flavor. It is going to really make this meringue absolutely delicious because, of course, adding vanilla to any baked good really just brings it over the top. So all I did was pour it in and then just whip it again. I'm staying on medium the whole time and just incorporating that vanilla in. And then, of course, I'm going to stop my handheld blender one more time, and look how beautiful it's looking. And now I'm going to add my cornstarch. I'm going to fold the cornstarch in. I'm no longer using my handheld blender, so I did take the blades off and wash them, and I put them in the fridge with my other bowl because I want that bowl and those blades cold for when I whip up my cream. So now, instead of using the blender, I'm going to be using one of my spatulas. This is a spoonula, I think is what it's called. It's kind of shaped a little bit more like a spoon, but a perfectly normal spatula would also work fine. And then I'm just gonna fold in that cornstarch, and that's really just gonna give our meringue that stability, and it's just gonna really create a perfect texture for our beautiful pavlova. So I'm just scraping down the sides and just gently folding in that cornstarch because I don't want to deflate this beautiful meringue so that it has a beautiful lift. And as you can see, the texture is absolutely perfect. It's delicate and fluffy, and it's exactly what we need. So now I've incorporated my cornstarch and my meringue is ready. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to line my baking sheet with some parchment paper, and then I'm going to use my spatula or spoonula, and I'm just going to scoop that meringue right on top of the parchment paper that I've placed on my baking sheet. Now, this is really totally freehand. So what I do is I just kind of stack it up high because I do like my pavlova to be a little bit like a peak almost. I prefer that shape. Some people like to spread it out a little more and go a little flatter. I really enjoy that lift, that beautiful peak shape for my pavlova. So what I do is I just spoon my meringue almost into a peak shape. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my flat spatula because that way I can just smoothen out the edges of this mound of meringue that I have just created. So all I do is just gently use my spatula and I'm just working from the bottom of my meringue to the top, and I'm just smoothing it out and just bringing it into that peak form. So look at how beautiful this looks, so glossy and delicious. I absolutely love meringue, and you could definitely share this with about, I'd say, 6 people. So if you want to serve more, then you can double or triple the recipe and then make a few of these at a time. You saw just how easily they come together. So I'm going to put this into my hot oven, but you'll notice I'm going to bring down the temperature immediately to 250 degrees. And then I'm going to set a timer for 90 full minutes to allow this to cook at 250. It's going to gently come down from that 350 and it's going to crisp up that meringue and just give it a slightly golden color. And then after 90 minutes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my oven off, but I'm not going to open the door, and I'm going to set another 30-minute timer, and I'm going to allow my beautiful meringue to just sit in the oven for 30 more minutes. Please excuse the spots on my oven door. And then after those 30 minutes, I'm gonna open up my oven and I'm gonna bring my crispy, beautiful meringue out. And it's completely crispy and golden on the outside. And I'm sure it's marshmallowy and fluffy on the inside. It smells sweet, delicate, and delicious. And it's looking absolutely adorable already. So now, right on the tray, I'm gonna allow this to cool for a bit. And how do I know it's cool? Because it's going to release from that parchment and it's just going to feel nice and crispy on the outside. And I can even lift it, and you see the bottom is nice and solid. This is beautifully crispy, and it's now cool enough for us to work on the topping. So this was in the refrigerator, my cream, my bowl, and the blades from my handheld blender, because if it's cold, my cream is gonna whip up much quicker, much more airy and light, and it's just absolutely a tip that's gonna help you every time you wanna make homemade whipped cream. So for this whipped cream, all I'm going to do is I'm gonna be using my heavy cream, and I'm going to be using my pure vanilla extract. Always go for the good stuff and just add that right into your cream. And then I'm just gonna add the two into my cold bowl. And then I'm just going to start whipping that cream, because just like we did with the meringue, we want to incorporate plenty of air into the cream. So I like to whip this pretty high. I start as usual on low and then just quickly work my way up and then incorporate plenty of air. You can see the air bubbles forming as I whip, and I'm raising my speed and going pretty high. Now, once I'm on high, I just add my sugar. And like I said, you can use regular sugar for this because we don't need to worry too much about this with cream. We're not gonna be piping it on, so we're not using powdered sugar. Any sugar would work perfectly fine. I'm using just regular sugar for this cream. And then we're just gonna whip it up and we're going to incorporate that sugar that we just added And then now I am all the way up on high, and I'm just adding plenty of air into my cream until it starts to thicken up. You're gonna see very quickly that the texture starts to change. And of course, if you over whip, you're gonna end up with butter, so you don't wanna do that. So just pay attention to the tracks in your bowl. You see how it's starting to leave tracks as I whip. That's how you know you are pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to turn off my handheld blender, and I'm just going to switch over to my spatula, scrape down the sides of my bowl, and you can see how beautifully whipped and delicious this cream is. So now I've plated my pavlova, my meringue cake, on a plate because it is cool and it is ready to be filled and topped. And I'm so excited because this is the fun part. So I've grabbed my long, thin knife and I've brought over my beautifully whipped cream and some berries. And now we are going to take the tip of our knife and very gently and carefully, and don't worry if it cracks because you're going to be covering this with whipped cream, so it's okay. It doesn't matter. You're going to use your knife and you're going to cut out a circle, or as close to a circle as you can, and you see the inside is nice and pillowy. And I'm taking these pieces and putting them inside. Well, except that one. I just couldn't resist. And so I'm just stuffing these little pieces right inside. And I actually used that little piece that caved in and just repaired my circle. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the inside with a few of these berries. So I chopped up a couple of strawberries into smaller bite-sized pieces. I just like the pieces to be very comfortable when people are biting into the pavlova. So all I did was add a few of those pieces of strawberry, and then I'm adding a few of these beautiful sweet blackberries. And then I'm also going to be adding some blueberries. Now, I wanted raspberries too, but my market was out of them, so I had to skip the raspberries this time. But you get the idea. You can do a combination of any berries you want. You can stick with all strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, or a combination. Or as I said, you can chop up other fruits into small dices, the way I did here with the strawberries, and fill it with that instead, whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you prefer. So now we've filled our beautiful meringue cake and we are building this gorgeous pavlova. It's looking beautiful already. And now, as if this weren't enough, we are going to top it with this delicious whipped cream that we just whipped up. And you saw how quickly this cream came together. It could not be any more simple. This recipe really is beautiful, colorful, just gorgeous, super tasty, but super easy. The hardest part is waiting for the meringue to bake. The rest is super easy. If you have a handheld blender, you just whip up that beautiful meringue, whip up this delicious cream infused with vanilla, and just put it all together, and it's a gorgeous dessert for any occasion. I actually got inspired to make this recipe in honor of my eldest son's birthday because I try to make them whatever recipe they really love for their birthday, and he requested a pavlova. He loves a pavlova. And so that's what inspired me. But you don't need to wait for a special occasion because this is an easy and beautiful recipe. Anytime you're having anyone over for dinner or just as a special treat, it's gorgeous and super yummy. So now I've piled on all of that whipped cream and I'm just giving it a little bit of a swirl, making it look pretty, and just look at how gorgeous this looks already. And of course, we are going to take it one step further and we're going to top it with a few of these berries. Now, you can top it with whole strawberries. You can top it with strawberries that you slice into pieces, but I like to remove the top of my strawberries, and I just use these same little pieces that I put on the inside of my pavlova to decorate the top. But you can get artsy, you can go however you want with the decoration of your pavlova. I just like it to be functional and delicious, so I go for pieces, and then of course I can do my blackberries and blueberries whole because I don't have to worry about tops on those. And I just basically sprinkle a few on top, and that's it. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no actual structure here. Just top it however you'd like. And what we're doing is just finishing it off, making it look pretty, adding a little color to the top so people know what to expect when they cut inside this delicious pavlova. That's all we're doing right now. And of course, adding a little more of this yummy fruit. You can't go wrong with that. So now, once you have topped it, your pavlova is ready. We're finally ready to enjoy this delicious masterpiece. Easy and delicious. You cannot beat that. And it just looks great. It looks fancy, like you took all day in this incredible labor of love, so much effort. But the truth is, it's easy. You don't even have to tell them how easy it is and totally impress them. But if you know me, you know that if it's an easy, delicious, beautiful recipe, I'm going to want to share it with the world. So here you have it, your gorgeous pavlova. Now I'm going to let you hear what it sounds like when I slice into it. I'm telling you, it's almost like magic. The outside is super crispy, but the inside is pillowy and just absolutely fluffy, almost like a marshmallow. It's just got the most incredible texture, and cutting into it and finding those beautiful berries inside along with that beautifully pillowy interior is just super surprising and just gorgeous. Now, I've stood it up on its side, and I want to give you another look at the inside of this gorgeous pavlova. Now, how gorgeous does that look? It's just so perfect. It looks like it comes from a fancy bake shop, just an incredibly fancy pastry chef made this, but no, you did it. It's super easy. So I'm going to take a bite. Oh my, it is so, so good. I can't even describe it. Of course, I'm destroying it as I eat it. But the combination of the cream, the berries, and that crispy meringue from the outside is just so incredible. I can't get enough of it. And of course, the interior is pillowy. That meringue, crispy, so good. It is the most delicious bite. It's light and airy, but yummy. And it feels so special. It really feels like I'm out at a fancy restaurant, and you saw how quickly it came together. It's really not that hard. And the results? Amazing. Wow, everyone is going to be impressed. Look at that pillowy interior. How does that happen? It's almost like magic. It's fluffy and almost marshmallow-like. And that combination with that crispy meringue from the outside, and that delicious cream and those berries, it's just perfect. It's really just the perfect bite. Look at the berries falling out from the inside of our pavlova. So perfect, so delicious, easy to make, and really, really impressive. You're really gonna love this one. Now, didn't I tell you this was going to come together super easily? How easy was that? And the results are so beautiful. And you saw, we just whipped up some egg whites, whipped up some whipped cream, put it all together. And before you knew it, you had this beautiful dessert that's crispy and crunchy on the outside and pillowy and marshmallowy on the inside. It's the perfect contrast and combination of textures. And of course, with that luscious whipped cream that we put on top and those berries that give it just a little bit of tartness, it's the perfect dessert. And it's super impressive. You're going to love it. Trust me. No, better yet, don't trust me. You're going to have to try to make this recipe yourself. And of course, if you've enjoyed today's recipe, don't forget to like, comment, and share. And if you haven't done so already, remember to subscribe to my channel and to touch that little notification bell so that you get notified every time I put up a new and exciting recipe. I mean, seriously, how easy was this dessert? And it is absolutely gorgeous. And of course, if you're not already following me on social media, you can follow Sally That Girl in the Kitchen on Facebook, Instagram, and on Pinterest. And you can follow me as Sally That Girl FL on Twitter, Snapchat, and on TikTok. See you next time. Sally That Girl in the Kitchen.